Tess is being honoured because not only is she an Irish Olympian, but she is a Carlow Olympian, and we are so proud to have her. There's red, green and yellow blood flowing through Tess's veins, and that's what propels her down those ski slopes, and we are so proud to have her as a Carlow person, and we are duly bound to honour her, and we're so proud to have her as part of Carlow history.
So I've competed in 2 Olympic events. I've competed first in Pyeongchang 2018. I've competed only in the technical events, so only giant slalom and slalom. And then I've competed in Beijing 2022, and I've competed again in the technical events, so giant slalom and slalom. And this time I've competed too in speed, so in Super G, and it was the first time an Irish female competed in speed events at the Olympics.
There was 3 things we want to achieve today with having the Arbez family visit us. One was obviously to congratulate and thank Tess for all she has done as an Olympian. Secondly, for the family to reconnect with their Carlow heritage. And thirdly, for them to get an understanding of how significant the sugar factory is. So today we've organised a civic welcome for them, where Tess would be honoured and presented with a copy of the famous poster from 1925, which was calling for the sugar beet factory to be built in Carlow. We then have visited Carlow Cathedral, where her grandfather was baptised in 1944. We're in Carlow County Museum looking at the sugar factory exhibition, and later on in the day we're going to go visit the remains of the Carlow Sugar Factory and the location of where her grandparents would have lived. She will also interact with the Carlow Sports Partnership to visit one of their summer camps. And the reason we're here today is because Marguerite's father, Tess's grandfather, Francis Neerman, was born here in Carlow Town in 1944. To welcome you all and to officially welcome home our guests of honour, will you please welcome Councillor Brian O'Donoghue, Cathaoirleach the Carlow County Council.
Bonjour mon ami, bienvenue mon ami à Carlow. Je suis désolé, mes amis, car mon français est très mal. Good morning and welcome to you all this morning to the Town Hall. I extend a special Céad Míle Fáilte to our guests of honour, our Winter Olympian Tess and her parents Jan Max and Marguerite Arbez. I also welcome Nancy Chillingworth from the Olympic Federation of Ireland, who was the chef de mission for the Irish Winter Olympic team to the recent Games in Beijing. Tess, you joined the pantheon of County Carlow athletics that have represented, athletes I should say, that have represented Ireland at the Olympics. In rowing, Sean Dre; over hurdles, TJ Kearns, a Rathvilly man like myself; and more recently, sprinter Marcus Lawler and Sam Watson in equestrian. Special mention also for P.L. Kern, who at the '84 Games in Los Angeles was the chef de mission, and he spent his career in the Carlow Sugar Factory. Tess, you have the distinction of being the first Irish female competitor in a speed skiing event, and you are also County Carlow's first Winter Olympian and our first female Olympian. Congratulations, Tess, on your wonderful achievements. I greatly admire your tenacity, bravery and resolute desire to be an Olympian. The Olympic motto is faster, higher, stronger, together. Or in Irish, Nís Tacula, Nís Arge, Nís Large, Le Céile. Or even in French, plus vite, plus haut, plus fort, ensemble. Not sure how good that pronunciation was. Today is about together, ensemble. Last February, when you competed in Beijing, due to the COVID-19 restrictions, you were without much of your normal support structure, including your family. Over many years, you've had the great support of your family and from the Olympic Federation of Ireland. In Ireland, we probably aren't as well connected to our Winter Olympians, possibly because many are of Irish descent, and we don't have the natural infrastructure here in Ireland for us to develop such athletics, and therefore affinity to these athletes. But with you, Tess, the people of County Carlow should feel very connected to you. Your Carlow heritage brings us together by connecting you to what is considered this county's greatest ever industry, our beloved sugar factory. Just over 97 years ago this month, on Friday, July 24th, 1925, the Town Hall and Haymarket area played host to an important public meeting, held here to publicly demonstrate that Carlow was the place to build the new sugar factory. The poster for the meeting, which was printed by the Carlow Nationalist and is on display in our county museum, states, "Do you want to work and be wealthy? Come." The Irish government had at that time decided, following sugar beet trials, to establish a sugar factory. They had asked farmers to grow the crop for the first time to test the potential yields. The government sought a lead partner from Europe, as Ireland had no expertise in sugar production. The government chose the Belgian company Lippens, as they afforded the best prospect of setting up the sugar beet industry on a sound basis. Soon it became clear that Lippens' preferred choice was to locate the factory somewhere in the Barrow Valley. Over the course of the spring and summer of 1925, the people of County Carlow and surrounding areas, through our civic and religious leaders, began a campaign to ensure that Carlow would be chosen as the site for the sugar factory to be built. Hence, the famous meeting here at the Town Hall on that fateful day, at which Mr. Shermans, the Lippens representative, attended and spoke. We don't know if Auguste Neerman, grandfather of Marguerite and great-grandfather of Tess, was present at the meeting, but we do know from photographs in Carlow County Museum that are signed by Mr. Shermans that Auguste was here by September 1925. That December, Lippens had chosen Carlow as the base for their factory, and earlier that month they set up their initial offices just around the corner from here in the then Clubhouse Hotel. The Nationalist newspaper of December 5th, 1925 lists the senior staff, including one Mr. Neerman, engineer, which was incorrectly spelled as Neirmann, a forgivable mistake as we were getting used to all these unusual names. Later, the factory headquarters moved to Straw Hall, and the Clubhouse Hotel subsequently became St. Bridget's Hospital, where Marguerite, in 1944, your father Francis Neerman, was born. A seminal moment in this county's history, with a direct connection to this morning's celebration, came on January 5th, 1926, when Dr. Patrick Foley, Bishop of Cllr and Loughlin, and chairperson of the Agricultural Committee, turned the sod on the Carlow Sugar Factory. Within 9 months, it was opened, and the first beet campaign began. This event became not just an industry, but a way of life that defined County Carlow for the 20th century. It was facilitated by people like Auguste Neerman, who, along with a cohort of others from Belgium, Middle and Near Eastern Europe, began arriving into Carlow. They came as experts in their field, and probably, as far as they were concerned, just doing their job. But what they did, and what Carlow Sugar Factory stood for, we owe to these particular Europeans an enormous debt of gratitude. So much of what happened in this town and county in the 20th century can be traced back to the establishment of the sugar factory. From practically the start of production in 1925, Auguste Neerman was one of Carlow's white gold pioneers. For 10 years, from 1939 to 1949, Auguste Neerman was the manager of the Carlow Sugar Factory. This would have been, without doubt, one of the most important positions of industry, not only in Carlow, but in Ireland. His time as manager coincided with World War II. While militarily neutral, Ireland wasn't spared the hardships of World War II, or in our case, what we called the emergency. With rationing for much of the first half of the 1940s, no doubt Auguste's position shielded the family from the worst of the rationing, but nonetheless, the lack of many basic necessities affected all families. The Nationalist of July 12, 1941, states that the local security force, the LSF, an emergency reserve to the Gardaí, held a dance for 300 people in the Ritz Ballroom in Carlow Town. The entire raffle prize consisted of the distribution of 20 pounds of tea in different amounts. Second prize was for 5 pounds of tea. Tess, your great-grandmother, Alida Neerman, was the winner of that prize.
That's why you love tea so much.
Yeah.
So, if we see you drinking a lot of tea later, we'll understand why. Auguste and Alida Neerman left Carlow in 1949, eventually moving to Dublin, where Auguste worked in the Irish Sugar headquarters. And not forgetting his European roots, he was liaising between the Irish and the EEC sugar industries. Their son Paul, with his scientific background, also worked for a time in the Carlow factory and married local woman Sally Keogh. While their daughters Nancy and Juliet were involved in life in Carlow, Juliet was for a period the secretary of the Carlow Lawn Tennis Club, and in December 1945 played a cello solo in St. Felix Hall in Great Cullen at the first concert of the orchestra and St. Felix Choir. Nancy acted in the very first Carlow Little Theatre production in 1945. Their first play, The Whip Hand, saw Nancy play the part of Bernie Regan, and according to the Nationalist Review, she gave a most convincing performance. She has a very, she has a very clear and effortless speaking voice, unlike some, and she was very well cast and played her role to perfection. Tess, congratulations on your achievements, proudly representing yourself, your family, and your family's Carlow heritage. And I know the next time you compete, possibly high up in the Alps, standing at the starting gate, that not only is the green, white and orange of Ireland in your heart, but the red, green and yellow of County Carlow is in there too. I wish you the very best for your future sporting and academic life. From us all here in Carlow, Courageous, Gurdah Míle Maithagad, Merci beaucoup, Tess.
We will now hear from the Arbez family and from a very proud Irish mammy.
That's me.
She has been introduced to us as Margaret Arbez, but like all Irish people, we like to know who you are, where you come from, where you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, Marguerite Neerman.
Cathaoirleach, members of Carlow County Council, ladies and gentlemen. My first words can only be thank you. Thank you, Carlow, for such a warm welcome. And special thanks to Dermot Mulligan for organising this wonderful event. This is such a special day for Tess, me, Jean-Max, my husband, and also for our son Maxime, who unfortunately could not be with us today. It's a very emotional day, which is why I have this sheet of paper in my slightly shaking hands to help me through with this speech. And it is a happy day. So I will only say a few words about, sadly, the too short time I spent with my grandparents, Auguste, known as Gus, and Alida Neerman, who had already moved to Dublin before I was born. So this is my very first time in Carlow, the birthplace of my father, Francis. My grandparents both died when I was under 10, and sadly my dad, Francis, passed away when I was only 10 also. So because of this terrible and early loss, large chapters of the Irish side of my family history were missing, or at least buried for decades. But this has all changed now that our wonderful daughter Tess is a 2 times Irish Winter Olympian. While I had heard a lot about the sugar factory when I was small, I had not imagined the impact the factory had on the lives of the Carlow people. So your warm words and kind faces say it all, and I'm sure that my grandparents and my dad Francis are very proud today. Today there are only 3 of us, Neermans and Arbez, but all the family, my mother, brother and sister, my cousins in Dublin, England, Switzerland and the United States have been sharing photos and souvenirs with me in the past few months as they're aware of taking part in the celebration. No doubt many of them will also be visiting in the near future. So you have brought us back at last to Carlow, where Tess's Olympic journey started, and in doing so you've also rekindled precious family roots ties and reconnected us to our first Irish roots, sugar beet roots. On the invitation, the composite photograph showing my dad with my grandparents and Tess in her Beijing Olympic ski suit with the Carlow Sugar Factory between them is a beautiful way of summarizing a family journey of nearly 100 years. This picture will always have a special place amongst our cherished family photographs. So thank you for welcoming us all home. Gurdah Míle Maithagad.
Dermot, Marguerite, merci, and thank you very much, and it's wonderful to have you all home. So would you please welcome the chef de mission for the Beijing Winter Olympics from the Olympic Federation of Ireland, Nancy Chillingworth.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here and to see Tess and her achievements celebrated in this way. I suppose in general terms, we all know that it's a really big deal to compete at an Olympic Games, but when you think about it properly, you realise that if the percentage of the world's population that actually gets to become an Olympian is 0.0001%. So it takes huge sacrifice. Tess is really modest, but it takes huge sacrifice, hard work, talent, and commitment. And that's why it's such a small and exclusive club. The fact that Tess is actually a 2-time Olympian, having competed both in Pyeongchang in 2018 and Beijing 2022, means that she's a member of an even smaller, even more exclusive club. As well, I've mentioned, it takes hard work, talent and commitment to being an Olympian. To be an alpine ski racer, it also takes a little bit of madness, I think. I'm sure there are some people in the room who've, maybe been skiing once or twice or have been to the Alps. I suppose that was the case with me before I was lucky enough to go to the Youth Olympic Games, before being in Beijing. But I can promise you that the gradient, I think you'll see a little bit of it, but the gradient and challenging nature of an Olympic course is like nothing you've ever seen. And pictures and videos don't really do it justice either. It's a pretty terrifying place. I know that Brian has mentioned it, and like Tess is modest, so she won't go into the fact that in Beijing she became the first female Irish skier to ever compete in one of the speed events when she did the Super G. That definitely takes an even more special type of crazy. The good type, obviously, but definitely a certain type of crazy. I suppose just as a bit of background, as a result of COVID, we weren't able to do any, the same kind of planned preparation that we would normally do for an Olympic Games, either for Tokyo last summer or for Beijing earlier this year. And so I actually only got to meet Tess in person for the first time at our pre-games camp in Austria in January, just before going to China. And I suppose people often talk about how, athletes achieving at the upper echelons of their sport, competing at an Olympics, you need to be, to a certain extent, single-minded, and, there needs to be a certain amount of selfishness in there as well to get to that level. However, one of the things that really stood out to me when I met Tess and throughout the Games was that in addition to all the necessary Olympic traits that I've mentioned, was how focused she was on the team and being a really central part of Team Ireland. Alpine skiing, it's an individual sport, but Tess is a really great teammate. And when she wasn't either training or competing herself, she was out supporting her teammates. She was like on the luge track, supporting Elsa. She was at the bottom of the finish line when Jack was competing in his skiing, and cheering them on. And as Dermot mentioned, there were no fans in Beijing. It was a really surreal experience to actually go and compete in Olympic Games, and we're great sports fans, but not to have any Irish people there. So the team had to be their own support. And Tess was a huge part of that. She played a huge part in supporting her teammates, which was really something special. I think in Ireland, we're a really engaged sports fan base. Like, we love getting behind our athletes. We love it when Irish teams are doing well or when athletes are competing on the world stage. And as a public, we tend to know quite a lot about our summer Olympians. Many of them are household names, and you get to see the added support that takes place in someone's hometown or their locality. Wherever the athletes come from, there'll be flags, there'll be bunting, there'll be posters everywhere throughout schools and houses and businesses and everything. It's a bit more challenging for our Winter Olympians due to our severe lack of snow and ice. If we don't have many homegrown Winter Olympians. We have a few, but not very many. And so this means that obvious fan base of families and friends and school friends and teammates isn't naturally there. It also means that athletes like Tess make a conscious decision to choose to compete for Ireland over the country that they were born in. And that makes it even more special. You make a decision on the country that you choose to represent. And so creating the links then with their families and roots in Ireland is of particular importance. And I think that's really highlighted by this event today, and what it means to Marguerite and Jean-Max and to Tess herself to have those connections with where your roots are from in Ireland. So I suppose I'd just like to finish up that on behalf of the OFI to really thank Carlow County Council and the people of Carlow for this wonderful reception for Tess. It's really special, and I can promise you that she is very much deserving of it. She's a super athlete.
Very well, Nancy, and thank you very much for being with us today. It's delighted to have you here in Carlow. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time we heard from the lady herself.
So, Cathaoirleach, members of Carlow County Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Carlow, for such a warm welcome And thank you, Nancy, for your kind words. You were a fantastic chef de mission in Beijing. And because of COVID, this was the first major event I competed in without my family present. And you were such a huge support for me over there. So being an Olympian is a dream for anyone who competes in sports. It's the ultimate goal, one that seems impossible to achieve. So when you make it there, it feels unreal. I am honored to be a 2-time Olympian for Team Ireland. Training and qualifying for the Olympics is such a long and difficult journey that you can't do it on your own. So many people have helped me along the way. My parents, of course, the Olympic Federation of Ireland for 2 Olympic campaigns, and Snow Sport Association of Ireland, who have supported me since my first World Championships in 2015. Training and qualifying for the Winter Olympics for Team Ireland is also complicated because all our events are on the snow and they take place very far from Ireland. Our disciplines are less familiar for many Irish sports fans who could be cheering us on. And so seeing all the kind faces in this room is heartwarming. I know that for my future events, I have a whole beautiful county supporting me and encouraging me. I have always been very proud to ski for Ireland. But after today's visit, which will allow me to learn so much more about my Irish heritage, I will be even more proud and honored to race for Ireland and Carlow. I am very grateful to all of you for this. Thank you for welcoming me home. Gundu Magru.
Just finally, overnight, we received an email, the Cathaoirleach received an email from your grandmother, Nicole, or Marguerite's mother, Nicole, and she wants us to be read out here today. And this is the widow of our Francis Neerman.
And I don't know if anybody else was thinking, but when we did so much talking about the sugar factory and so much talking about ski slopes, does anybody, can anyone think of an area where we might be able to install an artificial ski slope that would fit in with the RBA? That's not a promise, that's not a promise.
I think it's a promise.
Dear sir, I introduce myself. I am Nicole Neerman Gallipoux, widow of Francis Neerman, my dear husband, gone much too early and much too young. I want you to be assured of my presence in mind and heart during the marvellous celebrations organised today in honour of my granddaughter Tess. I regret not being able to attend, but I need to tell her and her mother Marguerite how much I am proud of them and my other children, son and daughter of Francis too. I want to associate them with thanks to this event. Please pass on this message to all of your colleagues from me, all my gratitude, Nicole Neerman.
So ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the presentations. And Tess, to mark your visit, we thought it most appropriate to make a presentation to you. Is a copy of the famous Sugar Factory poster from 1925, and we hope it finds a prominent place in your home and wherever you go in life. And the Cathaoirleach will now present it to you. And Jean-Max and Marguerite, we also have a similar one for you as well.
Thanks so much, that's a lovely gesture.
So
Thanks a lot, that's great.
Yeah,
it will definitely. Thanks a lot, that's beautiful.
So the Arbez family are travelling around Ireland in their camper van. So we thought it would be nice for them to have some Carlow produce to enjoy.
Oh, great. Hope there's some tea there. Wow, it's amazing.
Do you want to explain what's in it, Cathaoirleach?
So we have eggs from Ballon. Highly recommend them. Probably the most important thing is the Carlow beer. This is the cider. That's the lager. My favourite is the pale ale. There's a stout there as well. We've got some Carlow orange juice. The cheeses are, remind me, cheese. And there's whiskey cake I see in here as well. And there's Malone's Food Farm. Have some of the jams and the accompaniments. And what am I missing, Dermot?
The one thing that we export from Carlow to France.
The one thing.
People. Oh, sorry, yes. We had a great chat about it yesterday. Let's go, snails.
Oh!
I've only ever Carlow snails. I've only
Carlow
ever tasted
snails.
them once.
Oh, really?
They're gorgeous. But you can enjoy them. So.
Oh, it's amazing. Thanks, Tess. Oh, that's great. No, don't.
Sure.
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, it's lovely. Wow.
Marguerite.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'm already looking up. Yeah. Thanks a lot. That's great.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot.
That's the end of the presentations from us to the Arbez family. But like the museum, we're always interested in adding items to our collection. So through the good Irish mammy, we asked if Tess would like to present something to the museum for the collection of her Olympic journey. To say we're overwhelmed is fantastic. We'll let you explain.
What all
We'll
this
stand
is.
in here. And I'll ask Corey Judy, the president, the chairperson of Carlow County Museum, to join with Brian here as well to receive.
So this is my suit from Pyeongchang 2018. So I wore it during the GS and the slalom. It's a very thin suit, so when it's -30, you're a bit cold, like really cold. But at the end of the race, they give you a big jacket, so it's fine. You can suffer for 1 minute, or maybe less if you're faster. So this is the suit that I chose to give to the museum. So I'll give it to you.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
You can say Tess that has Irish in the
Oh yeah. So Pyeongchang was in Korea, so Ireland chose to put Ireland in Korean. So all the Korean fans were really screaming for this because they can understand which country we're from.
Exactly.
So they're really happy about this.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
So to be in County Carlow here today for my first visit actually is so overwhelming, let's say. I've met so many kind people and so many beautiful people, and I've realized now the impact the sugar factory had on the lives of the Carlow people. I'd heard a lot about it when I was small, but hadn't realized in fact how important it was. And also I did not know, because my family are quite modest, the actual role of my granddad in the sugar factory. I had not known that he was the manager of all these employees, and so it's really, I'm learning a lot today. I'm very honored and so happy with the welcome we've had.
Of course, a dad and a mom, they never say enough how proud we are about, the daughter, and especially what Tess is doing. So when you ask me, of course, we are fully proud. Why? Because skiing, it's a difficult sport. You have to wake up very early in the morning. It's cold. You go fast. You hurt yourself. So this is not what we would expect. I mean, as a dad from your girl, seeing her going downhill at 100 kilometers per hour, and waking up at 5 o'clock and not having a life of, a little daughter that you have being with you, not being in the cold, not traveling all around the world in order to train and training a lot. So basically what she has done, and in parallel, she has done not only high-level sport, but as well high-level school. So she's not hearing us now, but we are absolutely proud about her, what she's doing now. And we should tell her even more than today, every day. So yeah, very proud, very proud.
So today I learned a lot about all my roots from Carlow, from my great-grandfather at the sugar factory. So I think it's really interesting to see where we came from and then where we are going. So it's really nice to see in the museum the roots from the sugar factory and then to being a Winter Olympian.